Every company has a story. Every story has a moment, a decision, a gamble, a turning point, one choice that changes everything. Some companies never recover from it. Others build the future because of it. This is Inflection Point, the stories behind the moments that change business forever. Episode 1. NVIDIA, the bet nobody understood. In 2006, a company known almost exclusively for making graphics cards for video games made a decision that confused nearly everyone watching. Instead of focusing all of its resources on building faster gaming hardware, it invested hundreds of millions of dollars into a software platform that had almost nothing to do with gaming. There was no billion-dollar market waiting for it, no obvious customers, no guarantee that anyone would ever use what they were building. Wall Street questioned the decision. Analysts struggled to understand it. Investors wondered why management kept pouring money into a project that produced almost no immediate return. For years, that investment looked like a mistake. That project was called CUDA. It would spend nearly a decade quietly sitting in the background while the rest of the world ignored it. Then, almost overnight, everything changed. By 2024, NVIDIA had become one of the most valuable companies in history. Its chips became the foundation of the artificial intelligence revolution, so valuable that governments, cloud providers, and the world's largest technology companies competed for access to them. The world believed NVIDIA won because AI suddenly arrived. The truth is far more interesting. NVIDIA spent nearly 20 years preparing for a future almost nobody else believed was coming. This is the story of the bet nobody understood. Introduction. Today, most people know NVIDIA as the company powering artificial intelligence. Its processors train large language models, accelerate scientific research, drive autonomous vehicles, and power everything from medical discoveries to advanced robotics. But for most of its history, NVIDIA was simply a graphics card company. It competed in one of the toughest industries in technology, releasing new products every few years while battling competitors for gamers' attention. Nothing about its business suggested it would one day become the backbone of an entirely new computing era. Its transformation wasn't driven by luck. It wasn't the result of being in the right place at the right time. It was the result of a strategic decision made years before the market existed. A decision that required enormous patience, relentless investment, and the willingness to look wrong for almost a decade. To understand how NVIDIA became indispensable to artificial intelligence, you have to go back to the beginning. The rise. NVIDIA was founded in 1993 by Jensen Huang, Chris Malachowski, and Curtis Priam. The three engineers believed computers were about to undergo a dramatic shift. As software became more visual and video games grew increasingly complex, traditional processors would struggle to keep up. Central processing units, or CPUs, were designed to perform tasks one after another. They were incredibly versatile, but not particularly efficient at performing thousands of calculations simultaneously. The founders believed a different kind of processor was needed, one specialized for graphics, one capable of handling enormous amounts of work all at the same time. The company's first years were difficult. Its first major product, the NV1, failed commercially. Money became dangerously tight. Years later, Jensen Huang would admit the company came remarkably close to disappearing before it ever had the chance to succeed. Everything changed in 1999 with the launch of the GeForce 256. NVIDIA introduced a new term for its technology, the Graphics Processing Unit, or GPU. Unlike a CPU, a GPU could process thousands of mathematical operations simultaneously, making it perfect for rendering complex 3D environments. As gaming exploded throughout the early 2000s, NVIDIA became one of the industry's biggest success stories. Its graphics cards powered blockbuster PC games, professional workstations, and eventually gaming consoles. From the outside, the company had found its identity. But inside NVIDIA, leadership believed the GPU could become something much bigger than a gaming chip. The inflection point. Hidden beneath every rendered image was something much more important. A GPU wasn't simply drawing graphics. It was solving massive numbers of mathematical problems in parallel. That same capability could potentially solve scientific simulations, weather forecasting, engineering calculations, molecular research, and problems that had nothing to do with video games. Most companies would have stayed focused on gaming. NVIDIA chose a different path. In 2006, the company launched CUDA, short for Compute Unified Device Architecture. CUDA allowed developers to program NVIDIA GPUs for general-purpose computing instead of limiting them to graphics. It sounds obvious today. At the time, it was anything but. There were very few developers asking for GPU computing. Universities were only beginning to experiment with parallel programming. Most businesses had no idea why they would ever need it. CUDA required enormous investment. NVIDIA had to build software tools, documentation, developer support, programming libraries, and an entire ecosystem from scratch. Every dollar spent on CUDA was money that could have been invested in its profitable gaming business. For years, shareholders questioned the decision. Analysts criticized the spending. The stock moved slowly while competitors focused on short-term hardware improvements. Yet, Jensen Huang refused to abandon the strategy. He believed the future of computing wasn't faster sequential processing. It was parallel processing. He didn't know exactly which industry would prove him right. He only believed that eventually someone would need enormous computational power. When that moment arrived, NVIDIA intended to be ready. That patience became the company's defining competitive advantage. The payoff. The breakthrough came from a place almost nobody on Wall Street was watching. In 2012, researchers entered an image recognition competition called ImageNet, with a neural network known as AlexNet. The results stunned the artificial intelligence community. The system dramatically outperformed every competing approach. Its success depended on something crucial. It had been trained using NVIDIA GPUs running CUDA. Suddenly, researchers realized deep learning could finally scale. Universities expanded their AI programs. Technology companies accelerated their research. Cloud providers started buying GPUs by the thousands. The investment NVIDIA had made 6 years earlier suddenly became essential. Throughout the 2000s and 10s, nearly every major breakthrough in deep learning relied on CUDA and NVIDIA hardware. When generative AI arrived in the early 2020s, NVIDIA was no longer simply participating in the revolution. It had already built the foundation underneath it. The launch of ChatGPT transformed AI from a research field into a global race. Every major technology company wanted larger models. Every cloud provider needed more GPUs. Demand exploded so quickly that NVIDIA's most advanced chips became difficult to obtain. Entire data centers were designed around NVIDIA hardware. Governments introduced export controls. Companies announced multi-billion-dollar investments centered on AI infrastructure. By 2023, NVIDIA had crossed $1 trillion market valuation. By 2024, it briefly became the world's most valuable publicly traded company. The graphics card company had become one of the most important infrastructure companies on Earth. NVIDIA's story teaches lessons that reach far beyond technology. The greatest opportunities often look like distractions before they become obvious. Long-term vision requires surviving years of short-term criticism. Infrastructure built for one purpose can become indispensable for another. Being early means nothing if you can't stay in business long enough to be proven right. Most importantly, the future rarely belongs to the companies reacting to today's trends. It belongs to those quietly building capabilities long before demand arrives. For nearly a decade, NVIDIA's biggest investment looked like wasted money. A gaming company was spending hundreds of millions of dollars building software almost nobody seemed to need. Quarter after quarter, the payoff failed to appear. Most businesses would have abandoned the strategy. NVIDIA didn't. It kept building. Then the world changed. Artificial intelligence didn't make NVIDIA successful overnight. It revealed the value of work that had been happening quietly for years. The AI revolution wasn't where NVIDIA's story began. It was where 2 decades of preparation finally met, the moment the rest of the world caught up. Every company faces the same decision: optimize what works today, or invest in capabilities whose value won't be obvious until tomorrow. Most choose certainty. NVIDIA chose conviction. And when the future finally arrived, it wasn't trying to catch up. It was already waiting.